So this is about Rebekah and stories and evolution and hypotheses and some stuff I gleaned from the videos that I'll link in the description. Been like she has this constant narrative that we're assuming evolution in every paper that we write about evolution, or that we uh, we that we just have a story, that we're just telling a story, right? And we're assuming it works, and we're assuming evolution, and that's what these papers are about. And it's kind of driving me nuts. And it's driving me nuts because I take criticism like that seriously. Are we doing something really wrong here? It's interesting. A lot of this goes to the foundation of the philosophy of science. So, anyway, I'd like to take a deeper look, but I have to get off camera to do that. So, here we go. So, when Rebecca and I talk about evolution, we both start from the same question. How did a thing come about or come to be? What happened here? What is the history or the story? And we're both looking at like this historical science and looking for inferences to the best explanation. But split. We split immediately after that. Like, I look for a plausible physical pathway, a hypothesis that connects like one state of the world to the next. So I'm looking at mechanical steps from one thing to another, right? And I use something called methodological naturalism. And that is a really interesting thing that is not just something scientists do. Okay. Methodological naturalism, it simply means we're looking for explanation that obey consistent natural laws, like physics and chemistry and whatever, because those are the only things that can be tested or falsified. It's not a belief in evolution, but rather it is an assumption that every living creature makes. Every human being who is not, comatose in a hospital assumes methodological naturalism. We do it all day long. Every morning when I get out of bed, I assume the floor will not dematerialize before I step on it. I assume that my coffee pot's going to work. I assume gravity and friction, and I put my pants on with these same assumptions. And then I go and look for food or coffee or whatever, turn the computer on. All of these things I'm just assuming natural laws are going to work, right? But we all do that. This is the norm. This is the normal functioning of an organism. Can you imagine what it would be like to be an ant if there were constant miraculous interventions when you're trying to build your anthill? It's interesting, but ants probably feel that way when they're building their anthill and somebody comes out and sprays them with a garden hose. They're like, God intervened. Anyway, so when I look at evolution, I'm a lifelong atheist, and I don't have the option of believing that miracles occur everywhere at every step of the way. I mean, when I look at something that happened in the world and I try to figure out how it happened, if I go upstairs and there's just fucking shit crashed all over the floor in the kitchen, I start looking for causes like my kitties, or a burglar. I don't look for a miraculous cause. So am I being closed minded because I don't look to God as a possible miraculous cause for the mess in my kitchen? I mean, are you going to judge me for that? So there's this cartoon with some history. I think it's from the 1970s, where two scientists are at the blackboard and they're showing the steps, and then somewhere uh, The guy writes, a miracle happened, right? And the other guy says, I think you need to fill in some more details here. And the creationists keep accusing us of doing that, right? They think that's a cartoon about us. The joke is actually on them because they actually do believe that those are valid steps, that here at this step, a miracle occurred. So it's kind of ironic that they would use that cartoon, and I've seen them do it. Now, before I get out my little whiteboard with Scott and do some detailed listening to Rebekah's ideas, I'd like to mention a few things. Rebekah is looking for evidence for God. I think she said that if evolution is true, that she would lose her faith. And I may be mistaking, but I'm pretty sure I heard her say that in the past. So she's looking at science as a way to prove God. And I think all creationists are doing this. That's why when you ask them for evidence for God, they're like, "Oh, you're shifting the goalposts, or you're shifting the burden of proof to me, and you can't do that. We just want to talk about science, blah blah blah." They're looking for some way, and it's usually by back of the envelope probability to prove that God did it, right? So they're looking for some weakness in science, and all they ever come up with is this interesting thing that there are steps in the story that we have not filled in yet. Okay, and for them, that becomes their evidences for God. They always pluralize evidence, which really irritates me because uh, evidence is like water, right? The word evidence is what they call a mass noun. You don't have to pluralize it. Religious people, please stop doing that. And then the other crazy disconnect is that she keeps asking for what is your best evolution for or evidence for evolution. Bring your best evidences or evidence, right? Like there's a best one, and people will bring up whales and this and that and all that stuff. And you're just falling into this goddamn trap. That isn't how the theory is built and how the theory works and what the science is all about. There's no best evidence for evolution. There's just a big, huge container filled with evidence that we have to sort through and piece together. Uh, and at the same time, I hope we would recognize if we have a complete crazy inconsistency, like some step in population genetics where Kent, what's his name, says, oh, a cat gave or banana gave birth to a cat. Yeah, if we had evidence of that, if we saw something like that in the lab, we'd be like, whoa, I guess evolution is false. I mean, falsified. We just saw a banana give birth to a cat. God must have done it. But, I'm always concerned that I'm not giving this enough thought or consideration, that I'm not taking her criticism completely to heart. And that's kind of what I want to explore here with Scott in a few videos. And I'll try to get out the whiteboard and maybe make some sense of this. But do you get that? That the reason that we engage with these people is in some way it kind of addresses, our willingness to look at the uncertainties that we have, the steps in the story where we haven't figured it out. But the thing is, when I have a step in the evolution of the liver, for instance, or spliceosomes, to me, that's just that's a call to do more work, to do more looking. What the Rebekah and the creationists do is they say, "Oh, see, okay, God did it. Story over." Like something's wrong there, and again, I don't want to be the one that's wrong. Like Rebekah says, we do want to find what's true, and so I want to keep talking about this and looking into it and kicking around ideas. And I hope that all of you out there will try to look at it from a number of perspectives, including hers, and try to figure out, are we making a mistake? Anyway, bye, kids.